Hello, everybody. Welcome to BW Business World. And today we have an insightful discussion with a very well-renowned panelist. We have with us Mr. Sanjay Sethi, who's the chairperson of JNPT Port. Hello, sir, and welcome to BW Business World.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
I hope the last 1.5 years have been good for you health-wise and work-wise as well.
Last year and a half have been definitely challenging amid the pandemic. If you're talking about the work at JNPT, there definitely have been supply chain disruptions and demand contractions, but this was in the background of the global economic uncertainty, whereby the first quarter of the last financial year was particularly bad. But after that, from October onwards, things picked up. And in terms of the figures, if we are now comparing, let's say the first 4 months of last financial year and the current year, which is 21-22, because it went really bad. So now in these 4 months, the growth rate on those four months is as high as 60%, which basically means that when we compare it to the year before that, which is 2019-20, we are about 5% more than that. In a way, if you look at it, then this year is more like business as usual. So after the disruption that was created last year, we, in terms of the overall traffic handled at JNPT, are like any other normal year.
Right. So yes, of course, it has been extremely challenges for everybody across the globe. We have all made changes we never thought were earlier possible. And when we talk about JNPT in particular, what are the measures you had taken at your end to make this transition or this time period smooth for yourself and your colleagues?
See, the disruptions when we say the supply chain got affected was mainly because manufacturing was not happening to fullest capacity, but the actual transportation of goods from the hinterland up to the port was affected in a big way. Because the means of transport, the actual drivers, let's say there was a huge shortage of drivers. Even the ones who operate the tractor trailers or the truck trailers within the port, they were gram panchayats or the local village bodies which actually would not let them come out of their villages. They were not allowed to go back to the villages. There are the lashing staff, the mooring crews, the other people who created a kind of a shortage at that time. All our infrastructure works also suffered because of the shortage of labor. So one thing that we were doing was that we proactively got in touch with people who were ready to fill in this gap. We were getting people from remote areas of UP, of let's say even Maharashtra, who could come and fill in for the gap for such staff and people who, which was creating this gap. So that helped. We created place for them to stay, even for their food arrangements. This was mainly for those 4 or 5 months, which were very, very challenging. For our own staff to feel motivated enough to contribute to the national cause and also make sure that this chain is not disrupted at our level, the port level. We made sure that we have a new SOP for working where people felt more confident and comfortable, where sanitization drives were taken up, where all kinds of checks and COVID protocols. I think they have been repeated so many times that we all know that those protocols that were helping us to see it through. We have our own hospital. We tried and increased and strengthened the infrastructure and staff there. We tried to have seating arrangements of how meetings could be conducted, how we could get in touch, especially with the state authorities and all the other related stakeholders, because ultimately we also have the private concessionaires who run this. They all had to be gotten on board. So various measures, short term, medium term, had to be taken up so that we could work without a gap. There was not a single day that JNPT had a break. We worked throughout those challenging times, and even now things are better in the second wave, mainly because manufacturing did not stop really. Interstate transport was allowed throughout, but at the port level, however, all those measures still had to be taken so that we ensure a free movement and an uninterrupted operation of the port.
Yes, managing human resource has been one of the key challenges in the pandemic for everybody across multiple sectors. But when we talk about infrastructure in particular, can you tell us about some of the capacity building measures that JNPT is undertaking right now?
So, in terms of overall port capacities, we have this fourth container terminal, which the first phase got completed in 2018. And the next phase or phase two, some kind of a modified environmental clearance is awaited. After that, it starts when we will be achieving a capacity of as high as 10 million TEUs. We have been doing about 5 million TEUs in the last 2 or 3 years. But our capacities will get doubled in the next 2 to 3 years. Apart from that, a very, very big, ambitious project of setting up one of the or the largest port of the country, that is the Vadhavan port. The responsibility has been given to JNPT. The cabinet approved this last February. And currently, we are in the process of getting the environmental clearances done, the rail and road connectivity measures, as well as the detailed engineering. The detailed engineering, which includes some of the changes in the layout, the kind of model that will help. The potential concessionaires, which also includes the financial engineering part. All those things are going on right now. And this is an ambitious project which looks at a capacity of almost 24 million TEUs, which will, going by the current ranking, will put it amongst the top 10 ports in the world.
Yes, JNPT is indeed one of the, or should I say, the major port in the country with respect to freight capacity. So we were talking about environment clearances that most companies have to take or get from the required government authority. And also sustainability is a buzzword these days. So I wanted to know, what are the measures JNPT is taking to make it a sustainable port and undertake sustainable business practices?
So again, we consider sustainability as one of the major pillars on which a port operation should stand on. So one is, as is understood, a big vertical of the sustainability part is about the energy transition. So in terms of the energy transition, we currently use solar energy to meet almost 30% of our energy needs. And this includes capacities which have been put up by the private concessionaires also. So for the overall port, some of those are done by JNPT, some of it is done by the private concessionaires. But this will go up to as high as 40% within the next 2 years. And the target is by 30, we go up to 60% of meeting our energy requirements by renewables. We do not have too much of scope of wind, etc., but mostly solar, where one big part is also looking at floating solar infrastructure, which is in seawater. I mean, till now, what is being done is smaller water bodies or lakes, etc. It has been tried, but we are doing a pilot on doing a floating solar. We just started use and operation of EV vehicles in our port area. Apart from that, we've taken 31 ERTGCs. These are the rubber tire gantry cranes, where the estimated carbon footprint saving per year is about 3,500 tons. Then we've done a pilot project for using 20,000 liters of biodiesel per month for our internal tractor trailer movement. Then we have replaced our 600 HP diesel engines with 450 HP diesel engines on 7 numbers of our existing RTGC. There again, we have a huge carbon saving. Apart from that, in this part, the shore power supply, which we use currently for our tugs, etc., we have an ambitious target of using it for the EXIM vessels in the current in the near future. There is a lot of talk about electrical tugs, or for that matter, yesterday we heard somewhere of solar operated tugs also. So all those technologies that are there, we are looking at those, so that JNPT embraces most of these. Of course, there are targets on improving the green cover within the port. We have a huge mangroves plantation, but apart from that, improving the green cover. But safety by itself is a big component of sustainability, where again, the kind of safety measures that we have taken up or are planning add to the sustainability model. So sustainability for us, of course, starts with doing business better, because till the time the port is doing good business, is probably not going to be sustainable. So from the point of view of the business, so the 3 pillars of the economic, social, and environment all together combine to make sustainability as we understand it. So there, of course, to keep the business afloat, we are taking a lot of measures for operational efficiency, of getting into newer organizational structures, or even trying to get into public-private partnerships, which will help the operational efficiency and in turn the financial efficiency of the port to improve. As I said, apart from the energy transition, the third part is also about taking care of the coastal communities, which helps sustain the port. So one big initiative there is a skill development center, which we've started in collaboration with All Cargo, whereby we have been giving some training, very useful training from the point of view of port operations, to the locals, to the communities around the port, which will help them in the future and also contribute to the sustainability of the port.
If other smaller port players are watching us right now, what advice would you like to give them in terms of incorporating the good practices that you already have imbibed in the JNPT port?
No, when you talk about smaller ports, see, right now, in terms of the legal dispensation, what we call as major ports, actually, some of the so-called minor or non-major are bigger than major ports now, because Mundra is a case in point. But the distinction is government and private, maybe what you could call as major and non-major. So when we have 12 major ports, Out of that, you're right. Within that also, size-wise, some are smaller. Let's say Goa is much smaller, or so some of these ports who probably do not have that much traffic, let's say, which JNPT has or Kandla has. But similarly, out of the non-major ports, there out of 200, only about 100 are really active, and some of those are really small. But in terms of competitiveness, I think what is very, very important to understand is that if the port will not remain competitive, it can't be sustainable. So in terms of some of those smart practices, because when we take a lot of pride in adopting some of these smart port initiatives, especially the digitization initiatives that we've taken up here, I think just sharing a lot of information, getting a lot of things online, at the end of the day is the real answer to cut the cost, to cut time, which in turn helps a port to become cost competitive.
When we talk about ports, of course, it is related to maritime and shipping and anything that concerns water. So, what do you think is the future of logistics in the maritime space once COVID is a thing of the past?
See, there are, I would say that 3 or 4 things happening world over. Of course, one thing is that the vessel size is increasing. The vessel size is going to increase. When we talk about global economic uncertainty, where we all saw that world over there are shrinkages in terms of the activity happening. But if I go by whatever reports are available, the Drewry's port sector index, etc., they definitely show some optimism where even second quarter this year, whatever, 9.1% growth was shown. However, we are at the same time dealing with challenges like issues of empty containers or ocean freights rising. So 2 or 3 things are happening there. One is, for a country like India, definitely containerization is going to go up. Where currently, if you look at the freight rates, there's a boom there. The container for the container, the freight rates are really increasing, which means that there is definitely a demand. So with the kind of trade figures that we have that are taking place there, what we could probably say is that for India, there is every reason to feel optimistic, because our share in the overall trade definitely is going to increase. So when we say, of course, the focus will be on how you can make it more efficient, faster, or for that matter, even environmentally sustainable, that we were just right now talking about. But there are 2 other things happening there. That one is there is a consolidation of the shipping market. Lesser players getting in there, which by itself has a plus and a minus, which basically means a kind of negotiation space for different stakeholders. But most important changes would still come from how efficiently we are dealing with both the supply and the demand. I mean, if you say there is an optimism with some background uncertainty, I mean, if I may use the word, there is a melancholic optimism. There is still a lurking fear that whether there is a third wave or fourth wave and what kind of disruption will take place. But otherwise, when we sit today here and discuss this, there is every reason for us to believe that overall market, global market as well as Indian market in this field definitely will grow and grow at a certain speed where ports which are efficiently run, which can handle larger vessels, they will definitely have a better chance of performance, and connectivity indicators. I suppose that's again one big part that we must not forget wherever that is there, because we just discussed putting up a new port in this country. So these things will together make sure how future looks like for this industry.
Before we wind up for the day, I want to ask you that we have a lot of startups that are coming up in the logistics vertical. Some are pretty famous, some have turned unicorn of late, especially this year. But the problem is that they limit themselves to road transportation or train transportation. They are not as outgoing and as risk taking towards the shipping vertical. What would you like to say to them so that they are incentivized to step into this?
Again, when you use the word startup, whichever whichever way we define it, let's say let's talk about units who are relatively new, getting into some innovation somewhere. So you're absolutely right. The whole trade otherwise has been limited to the two modes, that's road and rail. And rail also, in fact, over the years went down. So if anything like 80 to 85% is done by road, the coastal movement was very restricted till now. So on a supply side, Government of India also put a lot of focus on this. Let's say we have an exclusive coastal berth, which we've just started in JNPT. So now when we say what all startups can come in where, the point is that this whole chain is rather long and complicated. I mean, at every space, when I say I'm talking about end-to-end logistics movement from any hinterland. If somebody is coming from an Indore in Madhya Pradesh up to Jain Port, there is a lot that can be used in between. I'll give you one or two examples where we have logistics services provider in terms of giving us digital solutions to basically track containers from end to end. It is about saying that you could be using technology to ultimately get a real-time movement of containers from the actual origin up to the port. So there is that huge scope when you say that it is not just limited to the coastal movement part. When you say rail or road, in each of those modes, startups would have lots of scope, mainly in terms of also providing technologies to ease this movement. There is, let's say, if we have started an SEZ, there is a lot of scope there that you could be getting into value-added services for exports. That could be about packaging, that could be about various compliances that are required all over the world, that could be about grading and sorting. So there is this huge scope, which may not only be about the movement part or the mode of movement, but also about which vertical are you talking about. I think startups, in fact, should see it as an opportunity.
Yes, and you don't really get the real life taste of things until you venture out into the field firsthand. So, yes, startups should indeed look at this as an untapped opportunity so far. So, that thought, I'll take your leave for the day. Thank you, Mr. Sethi, so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.